Hello, welcome to the final Module 5, in the Launch and Grow Your Ministry online course. In this module, I'll be talking to you about ministry merchandise and ministry marketing, or marketing in online ministry. So we're going to look at the omni-channel church concept. This omni-channel church concept is the omnipresent marketplace era where a ministry can share its resources and give people the same experience they will have if they are connected physically to the ministry. They have the same experience, have the same outcomes from the same source. So it's the omnipresent marketplace era. About a decade ago, forward-thinking churches realized that people no longer engaged with organizations just physically, so they developed online platforms that streamed services parallel to the physical church. This caused plenty of controversy at the time because people suddenly had the option to attend church or stay home and watch online, and that rocked the old location-centric model. So church leaders opted to keep the physical and digital services separate enough to make it work. Then when social media and YouTube entered the scene, those forward-thinking churches adjusted again, creating multi-channel strategies that allowed people to access some content physically, some content online, and some on the church social media platforms. But then again, times have changed. And so the secular marketplace has known for years that customers connect with brands online and offline seamlessly. That means customers can have the same experience with a brand online and offline at the same time. The result has been increased sales both online and at physical stores. Now, after studying 46,000 shoppers, Harvard Business Review discovered in January of 2017 that people who used several different channels to seamlessly connect with a brand, number one, were more loyal to the brand, two, 23% more likely to make repeat trips to the physical store, and then thirdly, more likely to recommend the brand to family and friends than those who use just one channel, such as physical attendance only. Now you may ask me, how does all of this affect the church? How does the church come in on this Harvard Business Review report? How is your ministry engaged in this, or how does it affect your ministry online? Now, when you consciously create several different channels or materials for people to seamlessly connect with your ministry, what you're doing is that you're giving them an opportunity to know you more by familiarizing themselves with your experiences so that they can relate to it. And then they develop a trust in you as God's representative to help them on their spiritual development journey. And then lastly, they come to know and long for the God that you present in them, because the channels that you create and the experiences that they have becomes consistent. The stories are the same. So they get to begin to long for God, long to know God that you present to them. And this is actually the ultimate reward and the essence of why we do ministry. Now, everything that you need to sustain the ministry God has given you is on your inside. Every resource that you need to create, every channel that you need to create and branch out in is on your inside. But first, we must debunk some myths and mindsets in order to walk in God's truth. Ministry merchandising is not self-promotion, it is self-disclosure. So when we say ministry marketing or marketing in ministry, we're not saying that you're going out there and you're shouting, oh, this is who I am, this is how strong I am infallible, and you're just literally boasting about what you do, who you are, and what you're called to do. That's not what it is about. It is self-disclosure in that you come, you tell us what God has called you to do, how you're doing it, and then you invite the people in, right? So again, I'll run that. You call us, you call the people, you tell them When I say you call, I mean that you create content, you send messages, your sermons, everything is meant to be tailored towards you, telling them what you do, what you've been called to do, and then inviting them to enjoy the same things that you enjoy in Christ. So ministry merchandising or marketing is not self-promotion. It is not self-promotion such that you think, oh, pride is going to get in the way and all of that. No, it is just self-disclosure. It is you inviting people to experience God as you have experienced Him by devoting your time to teach and share stories that the people will be able to relate with. Now, the question is, what is in your hand? You're probably thinking, okay, so how can I do this ministry merchandising? My first question is, what is in your hand? What is on your inside? If you remember, when Moses was going to deliver the children of Israel, God asked him the same question, what is in your hand? When the woman who was going to be taken away by the man whom her late husband owed money, the prophet asked her, what is in your house? What is on your inside? And then she told him, and he said, go and borrow vessels, right? Borrow vessels, get vessels and fill them. And so the Bible says that as they kept pouring the oil and pouring the oil, the Bible says, until the vessels finished, the oil did not run out. So again, I asked you, what is in your hand and what is on your inside? What are the diversification of your gifts and talents? What is that one thing that can be diversified? Your message is the one thing, but it can be diversified into several things. So what are the diversification of your gifts? What are the diversification of your talents? When you choose to create a product or a valued program, I want you to know that you are not selling the gospel, because you would have people who will ask you questions. What you're doing is that you are inviting people into your experiences so that they can find an authority in the thing that God has called them to do, or the person that God has called them to be, and they can now follow the processes that you have documented in your products. In terms of the programs you may choose to create, as long as you are sure that God has permitted you, do not put up your convictions for conversations. Once you are sure that God has given you the go ahead to do something, create a program, do not give up your convictions at the feet of speaking to people about it, especially people who do not understand what God has called you to do. So basically, just go ahead and do what has been instructed you to do. And so now back to why you must engage the omni-channel church concept, which is what I talked about when we're talking about the Harvard Business Review research. You have been sent to nations, but the truth is that you may never be able to physically be at every single nation before you die. So some people may never meet you physically, but they will encounter Jesus through the works that you allow him to work by your hands. We run a ministry right now, and there are over 100 people from 5 different countries and like 3 continents, and we've never met physically, but through the work that Jesus has called us to do, we have been able to, by God's grace, establish great relationship with these people all over the world. Sometimes what somebody actually needs is a replica, an example of what God is also asking them to do. And that thing has been done in you. So when they come in contact with your program or your product or your message, whatever you want to call it, the baby on their inside leaps because they see a replica or an example of what God has been telling them to do. And so something on their inside is awakened. But here is the caveat. I must tell you this before I begin to break things down for you. You must really take caution when you begin to create product and value programs. Please do not be tempted to get greedy. For example, one of the things that I do as a minister who does ministry online, what I do with some of our programs and some of our products is that we ensure, number one, that we have scholarships for some people who can join the program. The truth is, when you begin to get financial remunerations from these things, you can be tempted to increase the money or to ensure that it is so tight and nobody can join. Now, this is not, I'm not saying you should not be greedy so that people can join. I'm saying do not get greedy because it would affect the flow of the anointing of God upon your life. So don't be tempted to get greedy. Do not seek vainglory. Don't decide to create a product or a program because you feel that that's what will make you famous. No. Every intention will be checked. Every motive will be checked, and it will be checked by the Spirit of God. And so as your fame begins to rise and your name begins to spread, you must ensure that you don't just keep creating things because you feel that the other things are being accepted. Do not seek vain glory. And do not move without heaven's approval. Every single thing you're going to do, you must take permission from the Lord who sent you. Please and please, I must beg you, as someone who does ministry online, a lot of people have been distracted. A lot of online ministries have been distracted. And so they move out of God's plan into something that looks good and acceptable, whereas God is not in it. So do not move without heaven's approval. You must also ask for sales strategy from heaven. One of the things that I learned about doing ministry online is that most of what you need to thrive is not on Google. So you must ask heaven for the strategy to release whatever he has given you. And sometimes heaven will redirect you to someone, maybe a coach who would help you. But until you are redirected, don't just go running to coaches and asking for what heaven has given you to do. Ask for sales strategy from heaven. Engage the ministry of marketing and announcing angels. There are marketing angels, there are announcing angels. They're the ones who will tell someone to just come to your page. It has happened to me several times in ministry that somebody just reaches out to me and says, I was on the social media fast, and then God was telling me to do something, and I told him to show me what he was asking me to do. And you wouldn't believe it. On my own end, as the minister online, what the Lord instructed me was to do a sponsored post. And so I was in my own place saying, why do we have to do a sponsored post? But then I went ahead and I did the sponsored post, right? But the person on the other hand was the sponsored post was really for that person because it was going to get to flow through that person's timeline. And so immediately the person took her phone and came online. The first thing she saw was our ministry page. And that was when God told her, this is what I'm telling you about. And that's how we connected. I have seen somebody also reach out to me and tell me that, oh, I saw this advert from your page some days ago, and then I lost it, and then I prayed to the Father to bring it back to me, and he brought it back to me. These things are not coincidences. They are works of marketing and announcing angels. And if you know that the online ministry is basically invisible, then you need to connect the supernatural world, which is also invisible, and connect the powers and the kingdoms together. Do not do online ministry thinking that you have it all figured out. There are marketing angels, there are announcing angels. Every single thing must be done from the perspective of the kingdom. The reason I'm hitting all of this is that the online world is very distracting. And if you don't begin to see results sometimes, you might be tempted to do what everybody is doing when it is not acceptable for you. And so the purpose of the omnichannel concept is to give the same experience to a consumer using different communication channels or communication materials. Now, here are the options that you can explore to create an omnichannel system for your ministry online. It's also what I call your ministry marketing mix. Marketing mix in the business world, product, price, promotion, place, but being translated into the ministry or what we can use it for online, proclaiming Christ, proclaiming the gospel, teaching the gospel. And so here is the first marketing mix, which is product. So the products that you can create, and I'm going to be showing you those products before the end of this class. The product that you can create are programs. You can create programs, online programs, webinars. You can create boot camps like your normal camp meetings and begin from very early in the morning till late at night. Online boot camps, online training, as well as books. Now, books is at the least of this because books can be online and offline. They're not really continuous. Programs are continuous, webinars are continuous, boot camps are continuous, trainings are continuous. And so if you must get the good or the greatest out of the online ministry, you must be able to perfectly combine one or two products together to get your desired results. But first, you must be able to determine the goal of your product. The goal of your product will determine to you whether you're meant to run a program, run a webinar, run an Instagram live session, run a bootcamp, depending on the weight of what you want to put out. If something, for example, is going to be so detailed, it might be great for a bootcamp. If something can run for about 2 hours or 3 hours, then fine, you can do a webinar. If something is going to run for, say, 50 hours or 20 hours, then maybe a program, then you create a program that accommodates that. You must determine the goal of your product. You must determine the benefits or the intended outcomes of your product. You must also determine the length or the frequency of your product. Do you want to do it every time? Do you want to do it every 3 months? Do you want to do it every 6 months? You must be able to determine all of these things about your product, because once you can ask yourself these questions, when you can determine these things, then you can be aware of the exact products that you should actually create. And do not forget, your webinars can become books, your boot camps can become books, your programs can become books, your trainings can become books. But books are not the books are not the main goal at every point. Please do note that for online ministries, books are not always the first point of run to. You don't run to books first because it is people who know you that will buy your books. So you gain attention, you build trust through programs and webinars and trainings and bootcamps. So when people are engaging you through these four things, then your marketing for your books, you may not really need to do much. You may not really need to do much. Even if you might want to do much, you may not really need to do much. But the truth is that it's people that will buy your books. And the best time to write a book is when you are known. Number 2, price. Now, time, treasure, talent, and resources. When you create a product, what is the price you're going to put to it? Your price might be, how much time do you want to invest? What will people do to be involved in the product? Are they going to pay? Are they going to give their time? Are they going to send something to you? Are they going to? Is it their talent? Like, what would they do to be involved in the product? What commitments will you be expecting of them? How much time are you going to be requesting of them? What investment will they be making that is commensurate to the benefits? And sometimes it might not be 100% commensurate, because there are times when you have something really great and you just give it off at an affordable price. Right? So what investments will they be making to get the benefits that you have put together as a product? And what barriers and bridges can and will you be offering? The barriers and bridges here are in form of discounts, waivers, exemptions, and inclusions. You must be able to determine the price of whatever product you are giving. And remember, your price must be valued. It must be valued. There are times when the Lord might instruct you to do something really way below maybe your premium, but at every point have it at the back of your mind that your price must be treasured and be valued. Number 3, promotion. In communication, in marketing and communication, word of mouth is actually the fastest way to get whatever you're doing going. Now, word of mouth can be in form of, in the online world, can be in form of interviews, can be in form of Christian influencer marketing, getting Christian influencers to promote what you're doing. Word of mouth can also be you asking your friends to promote what exactly it is that you're talking about. Word of mouth can also be reviews from the people who have experienced what you've done in times past. And so you begin to share the things that they have experienced so that other people will see it and can connect. So even if people don't know you, the reviews has a way of drawing them to you. So word of mouth, social media posts, social media adverts, email newsletters. If you have an email list, you build your email list as we have discussed earlier on in the previous model. Build your email list and send them details of the products, and then as well as publicity. Sometimes because you run a ministry online doesn't necessarily mean that everything you should do is online. We spoke about it in the module about people. You must be able to duplicate your online life to your offline life. People must be able to connect with you physically and connect with your ministry physically as much as you want them to connect online. So what perspective of the people do you want to train? Now, in doing your promotions, one of the things that you must put into consideration is whatever language you use or whatever style of marketing communication you do, that the way you coin your headlines and subheadlines will determine how the people will see you. So what perspective of the people do you want to train about you? Do you want them to know that you do this one-off? Do you want them to think that it is something that you're really good at and have been trained for? Do you want them to feel to see that the ministry God has called you to do, you are doing it with all confidence, right? Then when you determine the perspective of the people you want to train, you must also know the medium that you want to use. Do you want to use all the mediums, which is not bad in itself, the larger the better? Or do you want to use just one? I always admonish that you get out of your comfort zone when it's time to do promotions, because you never can tell where your promotion will get to and the life that will be delivered as a result of your product promotion. And then lastly, what budget are you putting in place to achieve your goal? You must have a marketing budget. You must have a marketing budget. I speak about this later in a broader view, but you must have a marketing budget, a publicity budget. If you're going to use influencer marketing, you must be able to tell whether you're going to pay the people. If you're going to do social media posts, you're going to do social media ads, your email newsletters, you may need to do it over and over again. Your budgeting might be timed there. And then for publicity, which might be stuff like Twitter trend, Facebook ads, getting your friends to do stuff, or getting people who are well known to talk about it for you, or online blogs, you may need to pay for it. So always have a marketing budget. And then finally, place. In determining your merchandise, your ministry merchandise, whether it is books, whether it is programs online or offline, you must be able to know where you want to host your product. For example, if you decide to create an online course or an online webinar, what website do you want to use? What For online courses and online webinars, you might for Nigerians, Train Quarters is there. Train Quarters is owned by an African, and so it's there for you to host your products. Thinkific, Teachables, they are international based platforms. If your product is offline, you need to think about your event place, think about your facilities, you need to think about the location limitations and challenges. As you create and run your ministry online, you must be able to know the advantages and disadvantages of using the different platforms. As we spoke about in the previous module, I spoke to you about WhatsApp, Telegram, and I told you the difference between them and how much people they can host at a time. And so you must be able to understand what product is good for what place. For example, if you are creating a book, you must be able to create for offline and online audiences. So put your books on online platforms, Okada Books, Amazon. Put your books where people can reach them. You must be able to determine each place for each webinar, each product, each event, each communication. There are times you might only need to do a social media live session and not necessarily a stretchy webinar. It might just be like a 1 hour thing, one off, and just do it and move on from there. There are other times you might need to do a boot camp, which is about 3 days. If you're doing that, you might want to use Zoom or you might want to use Mixler. And so you must be able to determine which place or which location is great or best for each product. Now, you must also select your target market when it comes to ministry marketing and ministry merchandising. The first one is your current market. You must analyze who you've been able to reach so far. What are the categories of people that you've been able to reach? What's their characteristics? What makes them the same? What makes them the ideal markets? What makes them attracted to you? What made them attracted to you? How did they get attracted to you? So you must analyze how your current market came about and how you've been able to reach them so far, the things that you did. Then, outside your current market, you must also be able to identify who you want to reach next, because the idea is that you keep growing. You must keep growing. With online ministry, you must keep growing. So you must identify the next set of people that you want to reach. And then you must also identify who you are currently not reaching but can reach and is needed to be reached. Then you must also develop a profile of who you like to target. Develop a profile of your ideal target market and work with it. Now, how can you package and present your products? Whatever products or program you're creating, you can create them in form of subscriptions where people just subscribe for a certain period of time, maybe yearly or every 6 months, and they pay a certain amount every month to get and they pay a certain amount every month to get the resource that has to do with that product. Memberships and subscriptions are alike. People join your membership group, and so they have access to you and access to a community as well that helps them to grow spiritually. You can also package your product in terms of one-time experience, maybe one-on-one coaching or one-on-one experiences, or books actually fall into this category where people just come in contact with you once and for all. You can have paid mentoring as well, monthly by monthly. You can do something that would if God is not leading you in the direction of paid mentoring, you can just mentor people on a monthly basis. It could be the same set of people, it could be different people at different times. Just ensure that whatever mentoring or discipleship program you're putting together is in line with God's instruction and vision for your ministry. If you're into counseling, you might want to also go into professional counseling where people pay for your time and resources that you make available to them via the session. You can also write books, ebooks, photo books, devotionals, digests, hard copy books. These are products that you can create as a result of what you do or the message that God has given you for your ministry. If you're a fashionista, there's nothing wrong with it in running ministry. You can also have a faith-inspired line, designing, styling, and just ensure that people wear the word or are conscious of the word by the reason of your ministry. Now, product selling options that you should explore. There are three product selling options that you can explore. You can sell single products, just one program and that's it. Final, one program and that's it. You can sell bundles, put one program and one book together at a cheaper price, or at a more lower price than if the products were gotten on a single basis. So for example, you have a product, you have a course, an online course, and then you have a webinar. You can bundle both of them together and say, oh, if the course is $60 and the webinar is $10, you can say get both as a bundle for the cost of $50, right? Or for the cost of $60. So it is you putting more than one of your products together for a lesser amount. And then you can also collaborate with other ministers to create programs. We've not been created to be isolated. So there are people who are also in the line of what you do and also carry a fire of a message that you believe in. And so you can create a program that will have these people come on and teach your community. And one of the advantages of this is that their own community also gets to know you, and you might also find someone who will become your tribe. Now, no one will market your ministry like you. And I really need to say this because sometimes a lot of ministries online, you just leave the whole online thing, you leave it to public posts, you leave it to sponsored posts, and you don't really do much. No, you have to be consistent, and you have to talk about the work that God has sent you with the mind that salvation of souls are dependent on it. You can't be tired. A lot of people have trusted or have